Yo, what's going on, guys? So I'm going to do another video covering some tips for new players in Call of Duty. So it's going to be some pretty basic stuff, so it's not going to be anything too crazy, but it's going to be stuff that has helped my gameplay, and I'm hoping that it helps you guys out as well. So I've been playing Call of Duty for like 10 years now, so I picked up on some small things in the game that have helped me improve as a player, and so I want to share that with you guys and share some of my thoughts on things that help you improve, as well as what has helped me become a better player in game. And I'm going to share some clips and highlights from my stream and cover some different things that I do, go over my thoughts as I do things, stuff like that. So I'm going to throw some gameplay in the background. This is a highlight from one of my last streams. It's a 53-1 gameplay. I ended up choking the flawless 50 bomb, but it's a cool gameplay regardless, and it shows off some of my map awareness as well. So the way the video is going to be laid out is I'm going to put my most important topics, in my opinion, first, and then we're going to go further on into subjects that are more personal preference, but still things that I want to cover for you guys. So let's get into it. So in my opinion, one of the biggest learning curves of Call of Duty is learning the radar. The radar can be your best friend in this game, and it can be used to figure out where enemies are even when you don't have a UAV. I remember when I first started playing Call of Duty, I never really bothered to pay attention to the radar, and it was one of those things that I sort of had to force myself to remember to do up until it became second nature to be aware of what my radar was showing me. I know that while trying to learn what the radar is telling you, it may be difficult to check it and still keep your focus on the gameplay, but taking quick glances at the radar every few seconds in game will improve your gameplay significantly, and it will allow you to spot where enemies are on the map. And with the fog of war added into Black Ops 4, I feel that much more people are showing up on the map consistently compared to any other game. So paying attention to the radar in this game is extremely important, especially with how often it spawns. When I was learning how to effectively use the radar, the biggest thing I had to keep in mind is that when checking it, you just do a quick glance and nothing more usually. Anything more than a quick glance will give the enemy more than enough time to either move positions or push a corner on you. The radar not only shows where the enemies are on the map and gives you the location that way, it also shows where your teammates are located, which can be just as beneficial as having a UAV in the air. In most games, enemies won't spawn on your teammates and usually spawn where your team is not at. And by knowing this information, if you see that you're off by yourself with no teammates in your general area, you should be aware that you're most likely in or near an enemy spawn point and should be cautious. The radar is mostly used by me for this fact. Your teammates act as a UAV in a way and allow you to guess where the enemies will be coming from. This is something that does take a little bit of time to learn, and it might not be picked up extremely quickly, but learning to read the radar will strengthen your ability to play the game in a major way, and it'll up your map awareness. Map awareness in a quick game like Black Ops 4 is extremely key to surviving, and it's key to winning every match. Without a good sense of where your teammates are, where you are, and where the enemies will be coming from, you will risk getting flanked and getting caught in the enemy spawn often. So I'm going to throw in a little clip from one of my last streams of how I was using the radar to effectively show where enemies will be spawning at, as well as how effective the radar can be for map awareness. And in the clip, I called out what I'm about to do because I knew where the enemy would be spawning at based on where my teammates were located. Probably going to spawn behind us now. So the reason I knew that guy was going to be spawning behind me was because I saw on the radar that my teammates were either all pushing in the middle of the map or pushing more into the enemy spawn, which was on the opposite side of the map. And so I knew somebody, if not their whole team, was going to be spawning on the opposite side where my teammates were not going to be at, which happened to be on point behind me. And I learned that just from quickly glancing at the radar. So this is something that can be picked up on and may take time to get down, but once you get it down, you'll see a large improvement in your gameplay. The next tip I have sort of coincides with the radar, and that's general map awareness. Knowing the maps like the back of your hand will obviously greatly benefit you, as you will already have sort of an idea of what people will be doing and be located at every moment of the game. So this is not something that's as easy to pick up on as the radar is, and it does take more playtime in order to effectively understand the way that people spawn, as well as what your teammate's location means when running around the map. Map awareness is something that is picked up on over playtime, and there are not many tips that I can give about learning maps besides actually paying attention to the map when you play it, as well as pay attention to hotspots of where you get killed. It takes actual playtime in order to learn how maps play, routes to run, where people spawn, where people will be running at, and potential spots for corner campers to be at. One thing that did help me learn maps early on when I was playing Call of Duty was playing bot matches and just running around and making different routes throughout the map in order to learn what would work and what can work and what was a good route to actually run. Public matches work just as well, if not better, because you are playing against actual players who might run routes that you might have never thought of. Playing against good players is not a bad thing because you can sometimes learn a lot from good players and pick up on things that they do, like their movement or how they move around the map. So instead of raging at a good player, try to learn why he is able to run around effectively and do well, analyze the kill cam, go into theater and watch people play, They might be doing things that you might have never thought of. So I'm going to throw in another clip from one of my last streams, and I'm going to cover my thought process as I did the play. And it's a concept that sort of helped me to learn how to play better because it gave me a reasoning for why players do the things they do, and it taught me what to do in similar scenarios, so I'm hoping it helps you guys in a similar way.
He's gone.
Yo. Holy shit. So in that clip, it was a pretty close hardpoint game, and my team just got wiped off the point. There was 15 seconds left on the hardpoint, and we were only in the lead by 15 points. So had they held that objective for the entire 15-second duration, they would have tied us up and most likely taken the last point, due to how the spawns work when teams control hardpoints. So when I was pushing up, I noticed all of my team also died, and they were going to be too late for the hardpoint for me to wait for them, so we could all push in as a team. So if I waited, then the enemy would get all the score for the point, so I knew I had to push. So my first kill was on the enemy's best player. I took note of that, and knew that he wouldn't spawn close enough by to return within the next 5 seconds. I then used Crash's super ability for the extra 50 HP, and when I turn the corner, I'm already ADSing at the ledge to the right of the rock, because someone is always holding that head glitch on either side of the hardpoint, so I knew somebody would be positioned there. After killing him, another enemy walks in front of my shots and is nearly killed but runs away. I figure either this ends in me dying on point with the chance of me wiping the rest of their team, or me staying safe and them getting all of the score anyways for the hard point. So I turned the corner knowing that one of the enemies was weak, and it just so happened that there was 2 other people on point right in front of each other, which allowed me to wipe all 3 of them with ease. It's little things like that that can only really be picked up through playtime. The amount of map awareness that separates new players from players who have been playing for years is extremely large, and it's an insane skill gap in the game, but being able to take advantage of that skill gap will separate you from the average player. Call of Duty really is a game that does take time to learn how to play, and things like learning the maps every year and being aware of where both friendlies and enemies are becomes easier as you play and allows you to pick up on things much easier in the games that follow. The next tip I want to cover is choosing your specialist correctly. Whether you're playing the assault specialist or support, you might be still wondering who is your favorite or who you should pick, and this is one of those questions that really does come down to personal preference and who you most feel comfortable with. Some people enjoy using Seraph because her Annihilator is fun to use, and for some it's too difficult and they like Battery or Firebreak because of their AoE abilities. This is one of those choices in the game that really does boil down to what you want out of your gameplay. Firebreak and Battery are both great for clearing objectives, while Crash and Recon help your whole team as a support specialist that give buffs to your teammates. This tip is more just letting you know that not everybody will be good with the same specialists. I guess besides Ajax, it takes some time to figure out who you actually like using the most by playing with all the specialists. Now as for weapons, I did make a video covering what I felt was a really strong Russian class setup with the KN-57, and I do still think that it is really good, but I do understand that some people simply just don't like using the KN, which is completely fine. It doesn't mean the class doesn't work or that the gun is bad. Some guns just automatically feel off for people, and that's alright because there are plenty of different guns to choose from, and not to mention the combinations possible with different perks and attachments that change the way every gun works. Leveling up a gun to max level is a good way to test and see if the gun is actually good, and that you like the way it handles. Playing a match with a gun might tell you the gun is bad, but with how strong some attachments and operator mods are in Black Ops 4, it's hard to tell the real strength of a weapon until you actually level it up all the way and find the right perk and attachment combination that molds to your playstyle. I do suggest trying out guns for more than just a few lives. Give it a go for a couple levels and throw on attachments and see how you like it. I noticed using some guns with no attachments in this game actually does feel pretty rough at times. Play around with different classes if you haven't found something you like yet. Pretty much every gun in this game seems to be pretty viable and in a good position of usability. It just takes some playtime to find out what works best for you. Another thing that I want to add on to this when making a class setup, in my opinion, you'll be better off running an extra perk or attachment on your weapon than you would be, say, running a grenade or another equipment piece. If you haven't played a COD game since the ones that force you to use nades like World War II or the Modern Warfare series, then you'll be used to running nades, but in Treyarch games they've opened up the custom classes to truly be completely customized to your playstyle. With how fast-paced Black Ops is, and how weak nades are, and how they might not be used every life, it just makes more sense to run something like a perk or attachment, as you will get more use out of it no matter what happens in your life. And the last thing that I want to cover in this video is going to be sensitivity. Sensitivity is something I get asked about a lot in the games that I play, and people sometimes ask me what I think is a good sensitivity to play on. People ask what are the pros playing on so that they can get an upper hand in gunfights and have more control, and some people might just want to try something new. Either way, no matter what you're looking for when you ask someone about their sensitivity, just be aware that no matter how good the other person might be doing with those settings, it doesn't mean it will translate to every player. This is something that I picked up on when I started playing Overwatch last year. I looked up best sensitivity settings and copied some of the pro player sensitivities, and it sucked for me. It was far too slow for me to spin around, and tracking was a pain in the ass. But it worked for other people, and it worked for whoever it was I was following at the time. But it didn't work for me, and that's the important part. The tutorials and guides that try to help people find a sensitivity are nice because you get an idea of what other people are playing on, but in actuality it should be used only as a guideline, and you should always play on a sensitivity that is comfortable for you. My current sensitivity with my Razor Death Adder Elite is 800, and my in-game sensitivity for Black Ops is 21. Which can be far too fast for someone depending on how well they can track, and it definitely is not for everyone, and that's what I'm trying to share. While my sensitivity may be high, I'm used to it and cannot try to play on a lower sensitivity and still do well. Finding out what works for you in this game is crucial to see success, and I hope some of these tip videos do help some of you guys out in finding out what works so well for you. So that's my top 5 tips for beginner players for Black Ops 4. I think I might do more of an advanced tip video later on. I'm not sure yet though, but I think this information is pretty crucial when you're just starting out in the game, and so I do hope that it helps some of you guys out. Some things to remember is map awareness, make sure you're checking your radar, and know that everyone's gameplay settings and class setups aren't always going to work out for you, and you do need to spend some time and figure out what works out for your playstyle yourself. So I think what I'm going to do is start doing quality control like I did for Iron Sight and do it for Black Ops 4. So I'll be covering things like guns, specialists, things that work out well for me with certain guns that maybe people are overlooking, and share it with you guys. So I think that's going to be the next video that I do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.